Dr. Ilara Vance had always been fascinated by the unknown. As a xenobiologist stationed on the remote Proxima Centauri research outpost, her days were filled with analyzing strange soil samples, deciphering alien plant structures, and trying to understand the enigmatic beings known as the Veilith. These tall, luminous creatures moved gracefully, their translucent skin glowing faintly in hues of blue and green. Their language was an intricate blend of melodic tones and subtle gestures that no human translator could fully decode. To most researchers, the Veilith remained an unsolvable puzzle, a mystery wrapped in shimmering light. But not to Ilara. Over the years, she had earned something rare among humans: trust from one of them. Her name was Sira, or at least that's what Ilara called her based on the closest phonetic approximation of the sound Sira used to identify herself. They met during a routine data exchange when Ilara accidentally stumbled into sacred Veilith territory while collecting samples. Instead of punishing her, Sira approached calmly, tilting her elongated head curiously, as if studying a new species under a microscope. That moment marked the beginning of an unusual friendship. Their interactions started small, exchanging simple objects like tools or plants, but soon grew deeper. Ilara learned bits of their culture through observation, piecing together fragments of meaning from Sira's cryptic phrases. She discovered that the Veilith revered harmony above all else, believing every action should contribute to balance within their ecosystem. Yet despite these revelations, much about them remained elusive. One evening, as Ilara sat in her lab reviewing notes, Sira appeared unexpectedly. Unlike humans who knocked or signaled before entering, the Veilith simply materialized, their presence announced only by the soft hum of energy surrounding them. This time, however, Sira carried something unusual, an object resembling a crystal orb pulsating with gentle light. Placing it on the table, she emitted a series of melodic tones, pausing briefly between each note. Ilara leaned forward, intrigued. "What is this?" she asked, though she knew Sira wouldn't answer directly. Communication with the Veilith was rarely straightforward. After another sequence of sounds, Sira stepped closer, extending a slender arm toward Ilara. It took a moment for realization to dawn. The orb wasn't just a gift, it was an invitation. "You want me to go somewhere?" Ilara guessed, pointing at the orb. Sira responded with a low hum, nodding slightly. When Ilara touched the crystal, images flooded her mind. Vast glowing forests, crystalline towers reaching skyward, and twin suns casting golden light over an alien landscape. It was breathtaking. But there was more. Amidst the beauty, she sensed unease, almost like a warning hidden beneath the surface. "Lithera," Sira said finally, using one of the few words Ilara understood. It was the name of the Veilith homeworld, a place humanity had never seen. No human had ever been invited there. Ever. Ilara felt a mix of excitement and apprehension bubbling inside her. Why now? Why her? She glanced at Sira, searching for answers in those unreadable eyes. The Veilith stood motionless, waiting patiently. Though her posture seemed neutral, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. Was this truly an honor, or something else entirely? Back in the communal lounge later that night, Ilara shared the news with her colleagues. Some congratulated her enthusiastically, calling it a historic opportunity. Others frowned, voicing concerns. "Why would they suddenly invite you after all these years?" asked Dr. Marcus Hale, a skeptical astrophysicist. "There has to be more to this." Ilara nodded thoughtfully. She couldn't deny the nagging doubt creeping into her mind. Still, curiosity outweighed fear. If there was even a chance to bridge the gap between humans and the Veilith, she couldn't pass it up. Little did she know, this journey would test everything she believed and reveal secrets far beyond her imagination. The journey to Lithera began aboard a sleek Veilith spacecraft, its design unlike anything humanity had ever created. The ship seemed alive, its surface shimmering like liquid metal and responding to touch with soft ripples of light. Ilara sat in silence as Sura guided the vessel through the void of space, her elongated fingers gliding over panels that emitted faint pulses of energy. There were no windows, but holographic projections displayed their path. A swirling tunnel of stars streaking past them at impossible speeds. Ilara couldn't help but marvel at the technology. It wasn't just advanced. It felt organic, almost sentient. Every movement of the ship was smooth, silent, and deliberate, as if it were an extension of Sura herself. Despite her awe, however, unease lingered in the pit of her stomach. She kept replaying Marcus's words in her mind. Asterisk, there has to be more to this. Asterisk, was she walking into something far greater, and possibly far darker, than she realized? After what felt like hours, though time seemed irrelevant aboard the ship, they arrived. As the craft descended toward Lithara, Ilara caught her first glimpse of the planet through the holographic display. Her breath caught in her throat. Twin suns bathed the surface in golden light, casting long shadows across sprawling forests that glowed faintly with bioluminescence. Towering crystalline spires jutted out from the ground like frozen lightning bolts, refracting sunlight into dazzling rainbows. Rivers of liquid silver snaked through the terrain, reflecting the sky above. It was otherworldly, beautiful, and unsettling. When the ship landed, Sira led Ilara outside, and the air hit her instantly. It was cool and carried a faint metallic tang, tingling against her skin. Strange sounds filled the atmosphere. Soft hums, distant chimes, and the occasional rustle of leaves that seemed to whisper secrets. Everything around her pulsed with life, yet there was an eerie stillness, as if the planet itself were watching. "This is your home?" Ilara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sira tilted her head, emitting a melodic tone that might have been affirmation. Then she gestured for Ilara to follow. They walked along a glowing path lined with luminescent plants that swayed gently as they passed. Each step felt surreal, as though she were stepping further into a dream, or perhaps a trap. Their destination soon came into view. A massive structure that defied description. It looked part building, part organism, its walls shifting subtly as if breathing. Patterns of light danced across its surface, forming intricate designs that changed constantly. When Ilara touched one of the walls, it rippled beneath her hand, warm and inviting. Yet the sensation sent shivers down her spine. This wasn't architecture, it was alive. Inside, the structure opened into a vast chamber filled with floating orbs similar to the one Sira had shown her back on the outpost. They hovered silently, casting soft light that illuminated everything without casting shadows. In the center stood another orb, larger and brighter than the rest. Sira approached it, placing her hands on its surface. A series of tones echoed through the room, resonating deep within Ilara's chest. "You brought me here for this?" Ilara asked, gesturing toward the orb. Sira didn't respond directly. Instead, she turned to face Ilara, her glowing eyes locking onto hers. For the first time since meeting her, Ilara saw hesitation in Sira's expression, or at least she thought she did. The Valeth's emotions were difficult to read, their faces too alien to interpret easily. But something about the way Sira hesitated made Ilara's heart race. "What is this place, Sira?" she pressed, her voice firmer now. "What do you want from me?" Sira paused before speaking, her melodic tones slow and deliberate. "Kalnor," she said finally. It was a word Ilara recognized from her studies, a ritual of some kind, but its exact meaning eluded her. All she knew was that it involved connection, unity, and sometimes sacrifice. As Sira guided her deeper into the structure, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that she was being drawn into something far beyond her understanding. The beauty of Lithara surrounded her, but so did questions and fears. What awaited her in this strange, living world? And why had she been chosen to witness it? The chamber grew darker as Sira led Ilara deeper into the heart of the biostructure. The glowing orbs dimmed, their light replaced by a soft, pulsating rhythm that seemed to echo through the walls themselves. Ilara's footsteps echoed faintly on the smooth organic floor, but even her own movements felt muffled here, as though the structure absorbed sound. She glanced around nervously, her eyes adjusting to the dimness. Every instinct told her something significant was about to happen. Sira stopped in front of a large circular platform at the center of the room. It shimmered faintly, its surface covered in intricate patterns that shifted like water when disturbed. Around the edges of the platform stood several Vaelith, their tall forms radiating an aura of quiet authority. They hummed softly in unison, creating a haunting melody that resonated through Ilara's chest. She felt it, not just heard it, as if the vibrations were speaking directly to her soul. "This is Kalinor," Sira said finally, turning to face Ilara. Her voice, melodic and layered, carried a weight Ilara hadn't heard before. "You are part of it now." Ilara swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. "What does that mean? What am I supposed to do?" Sira didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached out and placed a slender... As the ritual deepened, Ilara's mind was flooded with more than just visions. It was a torrent of emotions, memories, and knowledge. She felt the weight of the Vaelith's desperation, their longing for survival pressing down on her like an invisible force. At first, the images seemed hopeful, scenes of Earth and Lithera existing side by side, humans and Vaelith working together in harmony. It was a vision of unity, of two species thriving as one. But beneath the surface, darker truths began to emerge. Ilara saw flashes of experiments, Vaelith scientists studying human DNA under harsh lights, manipulating strands of genetic material to adapt it for their own use. She witnessed simulations of Earth's ecosystems being altered, reshaped to suit the needs of the Vaelith. In these visions, humanity wasn't an equal partner. They were tools, resources to be harvested. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Her body tensed, and she tried to pull away from the connection, but the bond held her firmly in place. The flower-like device fused into her skin pulsed stronger now, its energy coursing through her veins. Panic rose within her, but she forced herself to stay calm. If she wanted answers, she had to endure this. "What is this?" Ilara demanded, her voice trembling as she turned to Sira. "What are you planning?" Sira hesitated, her glowing eyes flickering with something akin to guilt, or perhaps sorrow. For a moment, she said nothing, allowing the hum of the ritual to fill the silence. Then, slowly, she spoke. Her melodic tones carried a heaviness that made each word feel like a confession. "We are dying," Sira admitted finally. "Our world fades. Our bodies fail. We have searched for solutions, but none work. Until we found you. Found me." Ilara repeated, her voice rising. "What do you mean?" "You are different," Sira continued. "Your biology, your resilience. You can survive where others cannot. Through you, we may live again." Ilara's breath caught in her throat. She understood now. The invitation, the ritual, the bond. It wasn't about friendship or mutual understanding. It was about survival. The Vaelith needed her, not just her presence, but her very essence. Her genetic code held the key to saving their species, and they intended to take it, no matter the cost. "No," Ilara whispered, shaking her head. "You can't do this. I didn't agree to this." Sira stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "You did not need to agree. Your kind builds, consumes, destroys without thought. We offer balance, a new way. But at what cost?" Ilara shot back, anger replacing her fear. "You're talking about using us, turning us into experiments." The other Vaelith around them shifted uneasily, their glowing forms flickering slightly. Clearly, this confrontation was unexpected. Sira raised a hand, silencing them with a single gesture before turning back to Ilara. "It is not cruelty," Sira said softly. "It is necessity. Would you deny us life when we have shared ours with you?" Ilara clenched her fists, her mind racing. She couldn't argue with the logic. They were desperate, and survival often justified extreme measures. But that didn't make it right. Humanity deserved a choice, not exploitation under the guise of cooperation. As the ritual intensified, the hum of the Veilith voices grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Ilara realized she couldn't fight them directly. Not here, not now. She needed time to think, to find a way to resist. Summoning every ounce of willpower, she focused on the bond connecting her to the collective consciousness. Instead of fighting it, she embraced it, letting the flow of information wash over her. And then she noticed something strange. The bond wasn't just taking, it was giving. She could feel the Veilith's doubts, their fears, their divisions. Not all of them agreed with this path. Some questioned whether sacrificing another species was truly the answer. If she could amplify those doubts, maybe she could turn them against themselves. For now, though, she had to play along. Nodding reluctantly, Ilara met Sira's gaze. "Fine," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "Show me more. Help me understand." Sira hesitated, then nodded. As the ritual resumed, Ilara kept her true intentions hidden. She would bide her time, and when the moment came, she would strike back. Ilara's mind raced as she pretended to immerse herself in the ritual. On the surface, she appeared compliant, nodding along with Sira's explanations and allowing the bond to deepen. But beneath her calm exterior, she was plotting her next move. She had glimpsed fractures within the Veilith collective, a flicker of dissent among their ranks, and she knew she could exploit it. The question was how. As the chanting grew louder, Ilara focused on the connection binding her to the Veilith consciousness. At first, it felt overwhelming, like trying to navigate an endless ocean of thoughts and emotions. But as she concentrated, she began to sense patterns. The collective wasn't a monolith. It was a web of individual voices, some louder than others. Some were resolute in their belief that humanity held the key to survival, while others whispered doubts about the morality of their actions. Those whispers gave Ilara hope. Using the bond, she subtly probed these dissenting voices, amplifying them ever so slightly. It was risky. If Sira noticed what she was doing, there would be no second chances. But Ilara had no choice. She couldn't fight the Veilith physically, but if she could sow discord among them, she might weaken their resolve. Sira watched her closely, tilting her head as though sensing something amiss. "You learn quickly," she said, her melodic tones carrying both admiration and suspicion. "But do not mistake understanding for control." Ilara forced a smile, keeping her tone neutral. "I'm just trying to see things from your perspective," she replied. "Isn't that what you wanted?" Sira didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped closer, her glowing eyes studying Ilara intently. For a moment, Ilara feared she'd been caught. But then Sira turned away, gesturing for the ritual to continue. The relief that washed over Ilara was fleeting. She knew she was running out of time. Meanwhile, back at the research outpost orbiting Proxima Centauri, Ilara's AI companion, Nova, detected unusual activity in the data stream she had secretly uploaded before leaving. Nova analyzed the information and flagged several alarming details: references to genetic manipulation, resource extraction plans targeting Earth, and cryptic mentions of biological assimilation. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Nova initiated emergency protocols, alerting human authorities and preparing contingency plans. Back on Lithara, Ilara continued her delicate balancing act. She pushed harder against the dissenting voices within the collective, feeding their doubts until they grew louder. Soon, the once harmonious hum of the ritual began to falter, replaced by dissonant tones, as conflicting ideas clashed. The other Veilith shifted uneasily, their forms flickering faintly as the unity they cherished started to unravel. "What are you doing?" Sira demanded sharply, turning to face Ilara. Her voice carried an edge Ilara hadn't heard before, a mix of anger and fear. "Nothing," Ilara lied, feigning innocence. "Maybe your people aren't as united as you thought." Cyrus' hesitation was all the confirmation Ilara needed. The cracks were widening, and she intended to widen them further. Summoning every ounce of courage, she addressed the gathered Vailith directly, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "You say you want balance," Ilara declared, her words cutting through the discord. "But using us isn't balance. It's domination. Is this really who you want to be? Or is there another way?" Her speech resonated deeply, shaking the foundations of Vailith philosophy. Some listened intently, their doubt growing stronger. Others recoiled, clinging to tradition. The divide was clear and irreversible. As tensions reached a breaking point, Ilara braced herself for what came next. Whatever happened, she knew one thing for certain. The Vailith could never go back to the way things were. And neither could she. The chamber erupted into chaos. Ilara's words hung in the air, reverberating through the collective consciousness like a shockwave. For the first time in recorded Vailith history, their unity fractured openly. Some of the gathered Vailith shifted closer to her, their glowing forms flickering with curiosity and uncertainty. Others recoiled, their hums turning sharp and discordant as they defended tradition. Syrah stood frozen between them, her luminous eyes darting back and forth as if trying to hold the fragments together. "You speak of balance," one of the dissenting Vailith finally said, stepping forward. His voice was deeper, rougher than Syrah's melodic tones. "But how can we trust this path when it demands sacrifice from another?" Ilara seized the moment. "Because survival isn't worth it if you lose yourselves in the process," she replied firmly. "You've built your culture around harmony, yet here you are, willing to destroy that very principle for the sake of living. Is that really what you want your legacy to be?" Her words struck a nerve. The dissenters exchanged glances, their hesitation growing stronger. Even some who had initially supported Syrah seemed to waver, their glowing forms dimming slightly as doubt took root. But not all were swayed. A tall Vailith with an imposing presence stepped forward, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "She lies," he declared, pointing a slender arm at Ilara. "She seeks only to divide us, to protect her own kind at our expense. Would you abandon your people for her?" The accusation ignited a fresh wave of conflict. Arguments erupted in melodic tones, each side vying for dominance. The once peaceful ritual now felt like a battlefield, with Ilara caught in the middle. She clenched her fists, her heart pounding as she realized the stakes. If she couldn't tip the balance in her favor, the Vailith might decide to silence her. And humanity, forever. Syrah finally moved, placing herself directly in front of Ilara. Her expression was unreadable, but her posture radiated determination. She raised her hands, emitting a piercing tone that silenced the room instantly. All eyes turned to her, waiting. "This is not about division," Syrah said, her voice steady despite the turmoil. "It is about choice. We chose survival, but perhaps we forgot who we are in the process." Her admission sent ripples through the crowd. The dissenters nodded slowly, while the traditionalists bristled, their forms glowing brighter in defiance. Syrah turned to face Ilara, her gaze intense, yet softened by something akin to gratitude. "You have shown us our flaws," Syrah continued, "and for that, I thank you." Then, without warning, she reached out and touched the glowing bond embedded in Ilara's skin. A surge of energy coursed through Ilara, forcing her to her knees as the connection dissolved. The flower-like device shattered, its remnants fading into nothingness. What did you do?" Ilara gasped, clutching her arm where the bond had been moments before. "I freed you," Syrah replied simply. "But know this, my people will remember your words. Change does not come easily, even among the Vailith. You have planted the seed. It is up to them to nurture it." Before Ilara could respond, the structure around them began to shift. The walls pulsed rapidly, as if reacting to the emotional upheaval within. Syrah gestured toward the exit. "Go now, before the others change their minds." Ilara hesitated, torn between gratitude and guilt. Syrah had sacrificed everything: her leadership, possibly her life, to give her this chance. As she stumbled toward the exit, she glanced back one last time. Syrah stood alone amidst the chaos, her glowing form steady and resolute. As the biostructure sealed behind her, Ilara knew the fight wasn't over. But for the first time, there was hope, not just for humanity, but for the Vailith as well. Ilara returned to the research outpost orbiting Proxima Centauri, her body weary, but her spirit alight with determination. The journey back aboard the Vailith spacecraft was silent, save for the soft hum of its living walls. She replayed the events on Lithara in her mind. The fractured unity, Syrah's sacrifice, and the fragile hope she had ignited among the dissenters. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was progress, and progress was something worth fighting for. When she stepped off the ship and onto the cold metal floors of the outpost, her colleagues greeted her with a mix of relief and disbelief. Word of her disappearance, and rumored betrayal by the Vailith, had spread like wildfire across human colonies. Dr. Marcus Hale rushed to her side, his face pale with worry. "We thought we'd lost you," he said, gripping her shoulders tightly. "What happened down there?" Ilara took a deep breath, steadying herself before speaking. "It's complicated," she began, "but let's just say I learned more about the Vailith than any of us ever imagined." Over the next few days, Ilara shared everything: the ritual, the bond, Syrah's confession, and the seeds of rebellion she had sown within their ranks. Her account shocked the scientific community, sparking debates about humanity's role in interstellar diplomacy. Some called for immediate retaliation, fearing the Vailith's intentions toward Earth. Others, inspired by Ilara's courage, argued for patience and dialogue, believing that cooperation could still be achieved. Nova, her AI companion, played a crucial role in shaping the narrative. Using the data Ilara had secretly uploaded, Nova compiled evidence of the Vailith's desperation and internal divisions. This information was broadcast across human colonies, shifting public perception from fear to cautious optimism. For the first time, humanity saw the Vailith not as an alien threat, but as a species grappling with survival, just like them. Meanwhile, whispers of rebellion grew stronger on Lithara. Those inspired by Syrah's sacrifice began working quietly to challenge the traditionalists' dominance. They formed secret councils, exchanging ideas through encrypted channels hidden within the collective consciousness. Though progress was slow, they remained steadfast, guided by the vision Syrah had risked everything to protect. Back at the outpost, Ilara found solace in small routines. She spent hours analyzing samples from Lithara, uncovering new insights into Vailith biology and culture. Each discovery brought her closer to understanding their world and bridging the gap between their species. Yet no matter how busy she kept herself, thoughts of Syrah lingered. She often stared out the observation window, gazing at the stars where Lithara lay hidden. Had Syrah survived? Were her efforts making a difference? One evening, as she sat alone in the lab, Nova interrupted her musings. "Incoming transmission," the AI announced, "from an unknown source." Ilara frowned. Curiosity piqued. "Patch it through." The screen flickered to life, revealing a faint image, a glowing figure standing amidst shadows. It was Syrah. Her form was dimmer than before, her movements slower, but her eyes still burned with purpose. "Ilara," she said, her melodic voice tinged with exhaustion. "Change takes time, but it has begun. My people listen now, to your words, to mine." Tears welled in Ilara's eyes as she leaned closer to the screen. "Are you safe?" she asked softly. "For now," Syrah replied. "But this is only the beginning. Together, we can forge a new path for both our species." As the transmission ended, Ilara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but she believed in the possibility of unity, not through force or domination, but through mutual respect and understanding. And somewhere far away, under twin suns, Syrah watched silently, proud of the legacy they had forged together.